What's up, everybody? Welcome to the very first episode of the Mill3r Sports Podcast, affiliated with the company I work for, Burn City Sports. I'm your host, Franklin Miller, and today, for the very first episode of my podcast, we will be recapping last night's huge win against the Clippers and what stood out, and previewing a little Suns versus Pelicans action, which should be another classic tomorrow at Footprint, along with my prediction for the game. So to kick things off, let's recap the Suns versus Clippers, which was a hell of a win for the Suns as they won 111-95. And that capped off what was a 5-game losing streak, finally getting back into the win column to capture that off. And key things of note there was Mikal Bridges and Chris Paul really stood out. Mikal Bridges had 27 points to go along with 6 boards. I thought he ran the floor really well. He got good looks at the three-point line to start the game from the corner. I think that's a huge bonus to his game that a lot of people don't talk about, as Mikal Bridges is actually top 5 in corner threes this year, alongside his teammate Damian Lee, who comes off the bench. I think Mikal Bridges, after struggling over the past 5 to 6 games during this losing streak, it was good for him to get his shot going, as he shot 11 of 18 from the floor yesterday. I thought his mid-range came back to light, and I think just seeing those corner threes go in kind of got him off to a right foot. I think a little underrated portion of it was that even though he shot 4 of 24 in that loss against the Rockets on Tuesday night, I think going to the free throw line 8 times might have helped him out a little bit, not to mention probably morning shoot around. But just a feel for the game, to get in there and just play his tails off. I mean, I thought he did a phenomenal job, defended really well. I think it was a great bounce back game for Mikal Bridges, which is something that they're going to need from him for the most part of this season. And Chris Paul was phenomenal. Chris Paul, he dropped 15 points to go along with 13 rebounds and 13 assists and 7 rebounds, pardon me. And I thought he played a terrific all-around game. He also had 2 steals to go along with a block, and I thought he defended John Wall really, really well. I thought John Wall got going a little bit early in the game, but Chris Paul and Damian Lee, I thought they did a pretty good job defending him as the game went on. And I thought Chris Paul, for the most part, it's good to have him back, and good for him to be facilitating like he usually does. He's still top 5 in assists in this game. He's still one of the best playmakers in this game, future Hall of Famer. I think getting this portion of Chris Paul is key to the Suns' success. I think one thing, though, that I feel like Chris Paul could, I wouldn't say get better at, but be utilized a little bit more within the offense that Monty Williams runs here in Phoenix, is his usage rate when on unassisted shots are among the best in the league. I mean, he's right there with Luka Doncic at like top 5 in unassisted points in the game. I think he has one of the best mid-range shots that this game has ever seen. I think it's, for the most part, automatic when he gets to his spot. I feel like if he's just a little bit more aggressive in that aspect of his game, I think that can open the offense up a ton. And this is not even to mention that Devin Booker came back last game. He didn't have a really good game, shot 6 of 22, had 14 points. I expect him to bounce back. I expect him to shoot the ball better. He's just too good of a talent, too good of a player. He's a superstar in this league. I'm not too worried about him. I think he just needs to get his feet going, just get his shot back. I think he's been struggling the past 5 games he's played. I think the left hamstring tightness made matters a little worse for him. I just think he just needs to find his shot, just find his groove back. I think he will come this home stretch next week, going in front of his home crowd. I'm not really too worried about Devin Booker, but it's good to have a star like that back on this team where things kind of get going, the offense through him. And I think it opens up a lot of stuff, especially for Mikal Bridges, who again dropped 27 points on 11 of 18 shooting, which was terrific. A key thing in yesterday's game, though, was the bench play. I thought the bench was phenomenal. And Josh Okogie, I cannot say great things about him. He had a double-double last night, 11 points, 11 rebounds, shot the ball really well, had a plus-minus of about 5, if not either 3 or 5 last game. I thought he played outstanding. I thought he did a phenomenal job just facilitating the floor, just playing defense. He just has a knack for getting the getting the ball just getting the ball away from players. I thought he did a great job defending the perimeter of the key. And I thought that things are just going really, really well for him in this lineup. And I think Jock Landale is also another key player that played really well. He had 15 points, 10 rebounds, only had 2 assists, but I thought he played phenomenal. I thought he stretched the floor really well. He's been a little inconsistent with 3-point shooting and shooting as a whole in this season, but his effort is one of the biggest attributes that the Suns team can have from him. And I think with DeAndre Ayton being out of the lineup, it bodes well for his playing minutes, and I think he's going to just continue to shine and let the coaching staff know that he deserves more minutes out on the floor. But with that, I want to just continue to just finally just continue to talk about Josh Okogie's play. I thought what stands out the most about his play over the stretch of basketball, going back to the Boston Celtics series, or not series, but game, was that he had a plus minus of like 5.8 over the last 5 games, which is really, really good. I think he had back-to-back games, like I said, with double-digit points, which is key. He had 11 points this past game, and he had 10 points in the Houston game. And he had a really key play in not only the Houston game, but also the Clippers game. I think in the Clippers game, he had a monster block off the backboard, got the rebound, went in transition, passed it to Devin Booker. Devin Booker missed a 3-pointer, and then he puts it back up and dunks it over a Clippers center, excuse me. And it was one of the highlight reels of the game. And that's not to mention that he had another highlight reel play against the Rockets where he palmed blocked a Rockets player, goes the length of the floor, and then just yams on him. He's clearly showing Monty Williams that he needs more playing time, and I think it's boding well for his confidence in the system that he's playing the way that he's playing. I think he's going to deserve a ton of minutes come playoff time, because in my opinion, he's been one of the Suns' best players. Just defensively speaking, offensively speaking, and that's not to mention over the last 5 games, he's been shooting 50-40-80, not 50-40-90, but 50-40-80, which is phenomenal for a role player. 52.9 from the floor, 46.7 from 3, which is absurd, and 84.6% from the free throw line. I mean, Josh Okogie, even though defensively is his bread and butter, offensively he's been one of the key ingredients to the Suns' success, especially for the last game. And I think he's going to bode well in their game against the Pelicans, as I'm going to talk about here in a little bit. But I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Josh Okogie over the last 5 games that he's played. Each 10, dropped 28 in that blowout loss to the Celtics, was probably their best player, dropped 5 threes that game. And I think him and Mill3r are easily their best perimeter defenders, or just best defenders on this team, period. And I feel like if Josh Okogie can just get more playing time as the season just wanes, I think it will bode well for the Suns coming off the bench. So now I'm going to go ahead and look ahead of tomorrow's game against the Pelicans. And here we go again. Pelicans got them really good the last 2 games, and it was actually one of their best efforts over the last 5-game stretch, especially when it came to shooting the basketball. But the Pelicans have had their number, and it's been tough for them to stop Zion Williamson. Zion Williamson had back-to-back 35-point games against them, has been a monster, had a key 360 windmill dunk that really rubbed some Suns players the wrong way, like Cameron Payne, who thought it was like a very unsportsmanlike to do that with them already being up. But there's one thing that Mikal Bridges said during the JJ Redick podcast that I feel like I agree with, and that's it didn't bother him, and it shouldn't bother any of the Suns players for that matter. Zion Williamson is a tremendous talent. He was playing until the final whistle. He felt a certain way because his teammates got bounced out from them in last year's playoff series, which he didn't play in. Willie Green is an ex-coach for the Suns, it makes sense, and like he's a competitor, and I respect him, and I respect him even more for him saying that if the Suns did it as well, it wouldn't bother him. And I feel like that will bode well for like future matchups against the two teams, which who knows, they might meet each other in the playoffs. You never know. Right now, the Suns are the 4th seed, the Pelicans are right now the 2nd seed. Um, and I feel like with these type of energy and these types of moments in these games, and it's not even to talk about the Chris Paul and Jose Alvarado back and forth. I think it's great for the game of basketball. I think it's great to have this type of rivalry in the NBA. I think it just draws more viewerships for the NBA. I think it creates more better competition for the NBA, and it creates more better basketball. It just brings a little chippiness to the game that you all need that everybody needs once in a while. And then I think there you just can't get enough more respect for that, especially with two superstars in these games like Zion Williamson and Devin Booker leading the way, with Devin Booker averaging 26 and Zion Williamson averaging 25 on the season. And the key thing about these two teams is like they're both like really, really similar within scheme, within the way they're coached. Like again, Willie Green used to be coached under Monty Williams, so they know each other very well. They're all good, very good friends, and they just are very competitive, scrappy teams. And I think the best thing that they win with both teams is defense. Defensive ratings for both teams is the Suns 9th and the Pelicans are 5th. And then their net ratings, if we want to go with both the offensive and defensive net ratings, is the Suns are 5th and the Pelicans are 3rd. So both teams are top 5 units in this league, and they're a very respectful bunch that just continues to just play hard and continues to get really good quality shots. The Suns, I would say the one thing that the Suns kind of struggle with compared to the Pelicans is free throw attempts. I think if the Suns can get to the free throw line more often, they would be an even better team than they are. I think they're elite in every category but free throw attempts and defensive reboundings. And I'll get to defensive reboundings in a second, but in free throw attempts, have been killer for the Suns. They were 28th in the league, and it's been trouble for the Suns to get to the free throw line. I think one thing that was a huge reason why they lost both times to the Pelicans over the last week was free throws. In the game last Friday, the New Orleans Pelicans had 35 free throws to the Suns 13. And in the game on Sunday, the Pelicans had 28 free throws to the Suns 17. I think the Suns, if they can get the free throw game going and they can get to the line a little bit more, I think it can generate more offensive looks for their team, and it can generate a lot more respectability for them in the paint. I just feel like they just got to get a little bit more action in the paint. I feel like they're a pretty decent rebounding team, but if they can get more active on the boards and force these refs to call these fouls, I think it could bode well. One thing that has been troubling for the Suns has been defensive rebounding, to be quite honest, and that's I think that bodes for like second chance points for opposing teams, whether that's like just putting stuff back on the boards. I think it's also gives a lack of transition buckets for the Suns, quite honest, and I think transition buckets is a really good component for guys like Chris Paul, who's one of the best facilitators in the game, like Devin Booker, who's actually dropped 5 assists so far this season. I think if they can get in transition, get these play a little bit faster, get to the free throw line a little bit more, I think the Suns can take their team to another level, especially come postseason time. I think another thing too that bodes well for both teams is the turnovers. The Suns have the third fewest turnovers in the league, which is fantastic, and the Pelicans, they have the 11th most turnovers in the league. So as a young team, the Pelicans turn the ball over quite a bit. I think they're well coached. That's not to say that they're not well coached or anything like that. But I think one of the things that can get the Suns going is getting after the ball. I think Mikal Bridges over the last 5 games has been averaging like 1.5 steals a game. I mean, he's had 2 steals in 3 of the last 4 games. That's not to mention Chris Paul just had 2 steals last game. If they can get more action on the ball, I think the Suns can get in transition and force a lot of these foul calls than to get to the free throw line. I think the key thing for the Suns is to get at least 20 free throws in this game. Pelicans foul a ton. They foul 20 times a game. If the Suns can generate, just get to the free throw line at least 20 times to get that up going for them a game, I think they can beat anybody, honestly. And I think if they can just continue to get healthy, because right now they're without DeAndre Ayton, who's dealing with the left ankle, Cameron Payne, who's dealing with the foot, Dwayne Washington Jr., who's been a surprise, as dealing with the hip. Cam Johnson's out with right torn meniscus. If they can just get these players back and they can get continuity going for them and they can just get to the free throw line a bunch, I think the Suns can beat anybody. I mean, I wasn't really too worried about their 5-game losing streak. That happens in the wane of a season. And it's similar to what Monty Williams was saying during their 2020 bubble year that I wrote an article about, honestly, in terms of doing a little soul searching. It was the Suns want to be a team that can control their own destiny. And over the last 3 years, they have done that, and they're in the same position now. And for a team that's in the 4th seed that's still trying to find their stride, I think they can. They just need a little continuity, a little bit more aggression in the paint and on the boards, and I think they can do wonders. So that goes to my prediction time. The thing that the Pelicans have that they didn't have the last 2 matchups is Herb Jones is coming back. I think that is key for their success, and I think with Zion Williamson there, they'll always have a chance to be within any game. I think the Suns still don't really know whether DeAndre Ayton. Oh wait, actually, there's actually news on that. DeAndre Ayton and Cameron Payne aren't going to be playing in tomorrow's matchup as they're still dealing with an ankle and foot injury. Dwayne Washington's still out, so they're going to be rolling with Bismack Biyombo again, and that's going to be a little bit of a challenge going up against that hungry Pelicans team with Jonas Valanciunas and Zion Williamson in the paint. But one thing I do think that the Suns have an advantage of is they're 12-3 at home, which I think is really, really key. And the Pelicans are 6-7 on the road. So even though the Suns just got blitzed by the Celtics on their home court, I really like the Suns' chances of winning this game 111-106. I think Monty Williams, with a little bit more time to practice, look at film, see what went wrong in the last 2 games. I think they're going to come ready and hungry. I think it's going to be a close game. There's going to be chippiness. There's going to be talking back and forth. I think the Suns are up for the challenge. And if they can get a similar start to last game with Mikal Bridges getting a lot of corner threes popping for them, and getting Chris Paul and a lot of pick and roll action with Biz to get Devin Booker free on some open looks, I think the Suns can bode well against this team. Both teams know each other really well. Both teams know each other's scheme really well. I mean, heck, they run the same scheme. So I won't be shocked if the Suns pull off the win tomorrow. I think they will. Like I said, I'm expecting a 111-106 type game, very close game. And I believe that the Suns will improve their record and hopefully move up in the ladder boards in the Western Conference. So that will do it for the first episode of the Mill3r Sports Podcast. I hope you all enjoyed. I'll be doing this roughly every other day. I'm just starting out, trying to get a feel for this. I hope you all enjoyed this. But right now, I am your host, Franklin Miller, and I hope you all enjoyed this podcast, and I will be signing off.